Wunsche Family Cemetery. One of the strangest places to be buried in Houston is a little graveyard tucked between I-45 and the feeder road in Spring, Texas. The mid-1840s brought German immigrant Karl Wunsche from Saxon, Germany to Spring, Texas, which started around 1838. Charles and Dale Wunsche built the Wunsche Bros Saloon and Hotel in 1902 with lumber from their own sawmill. And still to this day, it is still standing and is apparently to be haunted. Spring, Texas legacy from the Wunsche family includes Wunsche Middle School, built on land donated by the family. The German settlers to North Harris County brought the first school and the first schoolmaster to Spring ISD. Old Town Spring. With an historic atmosphere, Old Town Spring is home to more than 100 small, family-owned storefronts. The population of Old Town Spring is 60,976. There was a fire that broke out in March of 2015, causing significant damage to the building and forcing it to close. Wunsche Brothers Café and Saloon reopened its doors February 1st, 2021 under new ownership, after the historical site that opened more than 100 years ago in Old Town Spring was forced to close due to the fire in 2015.
This building was built in 1902 by the Wunsche brothers,
Right.
and they turned it into a saloon, cafe, eventually a brothel. And we have several rooms here that are the original hotel rooms. It was built because back then you had the railroad right here, and this was a lot of area for mill workers to work.
Right.
So the railroad came along, and where Puff Bell is where the original train station was. So they would literally get off the train, and if they needed a place to stay or a place to eat, they'd come here and drink. And that stayed up until around Prohibition, especially when things started to move farther south into Houston, when Houston started getting built up. But they would come here, they would camp, and that's, from my understanding, that's how the name Spring came about. It used to be called Camp Spring, because all these mill workers and lumberjacks and everyone would come here, and they'd set up their tents. And those that couldn't afford to stay here, that's what they did. But the Wunsches actually turned this into a saloon and then eventually a cafe, and the Wunsche family had it until 1949 when Viola Burke bought it, and she changed it from that to Spring Cafe. And she held on to it until the 80s when the Mitchell family bought it. And when the Mitchell family bought it, the Wunsche family basically went back and said, hey, could you please do us a favor and put the name back. So that's how it wound up coming back to the Wunsche Café. Mm-hmm. And it stayed that way until we had the fire. And Casey bought it and redid it. And in the process of redoing it, he had to put new wiring, new plumbing, new electrical. And then our lounge here is open on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we'll have a musician play in the corner. You can get food and drinks up here. It's a full bar. Got a beautiful patio. If you want, you can take a look at it.
Okay.
But it's unique to have a building that, at least for me, that I can say I work in a restaurant that's 120 years old, and there's not that many people that have that that can say that. So between me and the whole staff and all the other managers, we try to instill that in our service. And if you notice, most of our servers will actually sit down and they'll give you a brief history of how this started. And what we're trying to do is continue that legacy and keep the legacy of the Wunsche Café. This is my husband's truck, and she's, oh, that's my husband's truck, and he still, has the company, but this is the part that broke down here.
Right. Yeah.
And that was several years ago. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the pictures and the drawings. And
yeah.
Say.
Is that a hubcap?
Yeah. And then same thing with this. This was in the fire, and you can see some of the heat damage that they did.
Oh yeah, the char.
Coca-Cola signs.
Oh yeah, you can see that. Wasn't that originally downstairs? That painting right there?
It might have been, I don't know.
Okay.
But I know that they try to save a lot of the stuff. And obviously when you have a massive fire like that, you're going to lose a lot.
Yeah, it was.
And then we got a lot of other paintings that got donated and stuff like that. And that's actually the side of the hotel.
Oh, okay.
So they just kind of built it right up.
Okay. Wow. Legend has it that this is the hanging tree of Old Town Spring. Once the victims of the hanging tree were deceased, they would take their bodies in the back alley behind this house, and they would store them in the back so they can be processed for their funeral.
For more awesome content, like and subscribe.